Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. We are here today at Wergs Golf Club in Wolverhampton. Wergs Golf Club is about 20 minutes outside of Wolverhampton, and this is a par 73, and off the tees that we'll be playing today, which are the yellow tees, this will be roughly over 6,300 yards. Onto the general feel and facilities. I'm going to give this a score of 4 out of 5. The facility is actually really good. You've got a very large driving range, you've got 2 practice nets, 2 putting greens, there's a practice bunker and chipping area, so I can't really fault the facilities at all. There's nice outdoor seating so you can have a drink after your round. There's a bar that's got Sky Sports on, so a good place to have a drink after your round. For the course difficulty, I've given this a score of 3 out of 5. There's 2 elements that do make this course quite difficult. Firstly, its length, and also the fact that it is heavily conifer lined. Any balls that do find the conifers will likely be lost. This almost forces you into playing as accurately as possible. The fairways are quite generous in places, and the holes aren't particularly demanding. You will find yourself having to think about your shots quite regularly, and also if you do miss a little bit here and there, you will likely have to take your medicine around the course. Not something that I was actually doing on the day though. Onto the layout, I've given this a score of 3 as well. Like I said earlier, the course is pretty long in places. There's a good variety at holes, and there's some really good sort of risk and reward holes if you do want to play a little bit more dangerously. For me, there's no real special hole. You could argue 12. There is some well positioned water, so you will have to think about where you're playing, and you will want to try and avoid a couple of the bunkers as well. The front 9 does play slightly easier than the back 9. Even though it's a little bit shorter the back 9, there are some really difficult holes, especially from 15 to 18. That is a really tough finish. Onto the course condition. Again, I've given this a score of 3. It was February when I played, and the course was in pretty good condition other than a few bits of water. Holes 12 to 15 were very boggy, but to be honest, the rest of the course wasn't actually too bad considering the amount of rain that we had at the time. And finally, onto the value. I ended up paying £22 for the round on the day. Normally weekend rates are about £30, but you do get quite a lot of golf for this amount of money, so I think £30 is a pretty good price for this course. I am going to give this a score of 4 out of 5. I can definitely recommend playing this course if you do want a sort of cheaper golf course. It's got all of the facilities that you'd want, and again, a very nice feel, nice relaxed environment to go and play golf in. This gives Wergs a score of 17 out of 25, and a pretty good score, and it was only the course conditions that were marking this down a little bit. So if you have got this far, please subscribe to the channel. Also comment or like on the video, and I'll happily get back to you on any of the comments. But stick around and you'll watch my round around Wergs now. Hole 1, and a great risk reward hole here. For most golfers though, you're probably going to want to lay up short of either the trees, or you're going to want to find the gap that's in the left hand trees there. The ideal shot here would leave yourself about 100 yards into the middle of the green. For the longer hitters though, you might be able to take this on, so depending where the tees are, it's going to be no more than about 280 yards, and to clear the bunker that's in the middle of the fairway, it's going to be about 260 yards to clear that. The miss of the green though is actually to the back right, so if you are going to go for the green either in 1 or 2, then again that's your miss. I would recommend avoiding long left. There's a bunker left, and there's also a big group of trees, and you're going to find it really difficult to get up and down from in those trees. The greenies are pretty generous size with only 1 bunker, as I mentioned, so aim for the middle of the green. The green does slope down towards the right hand side. Hole 2, and a long par 4 that does dogleg to the left. The aim for this hole is to get as close to the water, then that should come at about 360 yards off the tee, is to get as close to that as in 2. From there you're probably only going to leave yourself about 160, 170 yards up to the green from there. For the longer hitters off the tee, you probably can get past the fairway bunkers, but for most golfers, you're probably going to leave yourself short of the bunkers and then lay up towards the water. However, the most crucial shot for this hole is the third one, or the shot that's going to get you into the green. There is a very large bunker protecting the front of this green, and the green is tiny. If you do have unbelievable yardage control, then by all means go for this green. However, if you aren't particularly great with that yardage, I would recommend playing either side of the green. This should give you a good opportunity to get up and down, as there is quite a bit of space either side of this green. The green has two tiers, with the right hand side being a little bit higher than the left hand side, so depending where the pin is, you might find yourself a bit of movement up or downhill. Hole 3 and another short par 4. Again, you're going to probably want to lay up short of the big bunker that you'll see in the distance. There is another fairway bunker down the left hand side, and this comes at about 180 to 200 yards. It is quite a narrow fairway to hit, but there is a little bit more space out towards the right of the fairway. The ideal shot then would be about 230 yards off the tee, and this should leave you no more than about 100 yards into this green. For the approach to the green, again I'd recommend aiming for the middle of the green. There is a bunker down the left hand side, but there is a bit of space out to the right, so that is going to be a miss if anywhere. The green does gently slope down towards the front of the green, however not too much movement around the whole of this green. Hole 4, and the line off the tee is towards the big X that you'll see in the distance, or if you can't quite make that out on the screen, it is to the right hand side of the big tree that you'll see in the fairway. You'll ideally need to get alongside that fairway to give you the best opportunity to get into the green. So anything around 220, 230 yards will be your ideal shot, just to get alongside that tree. From here, the hole does play slightly uphill, so no more than about 5 or 6 yards more than what you would be playing normally. So I would recommend playing the yardage to the back of the green just to factor in this, and also there's 2 bunkers short of this green, so you will want to avoid these if possible. The green itself has a bit of a downslope down towards that front right bunker, however again not too much movement going to be found on this green. Hole 5, and a par 3 that does play slightly downhill from the tee. There are competition tees, and this is off a raised box, so you're probably going to want to knock about 5 to 10 yards off the actual yardage that you'll be playing. The green, however, has a large bunker down the left hand side and a smaller bunker just on the right hand side. So the green does run down towards that right hand bunker. Again, I'd aim over to the left hand side of this green, and if anything you are going to want to leave this short rather than go long. This is going to be the much easier up and down. The green itself does slope down towards that right hand bunker, so again factoring in that you will likely have an uphill putt depending where the pin is, and you will notice a bit of movement all the way around this green. Hole 6 and stroke index 1. The tees that we were playing actually were more like the red tees that would be played normally. The yellow and the white tees are at least another 50 yards further back and do bring that tree a little bit more into play. However, the aim of the tee is to, one, try and get past the tree, but also to try and get as far down to the water hazard that is cutting across the fairway. Off the normal tees, this is probably going to be about 230 to 250 yards, so it is going to be a good drive off the tee to give you a good position into this green. The ideal shot would be a draw around the tree. However, if you do push it a little bit right, you are likely going to find yourself into the trees on the right, and you will be forced into playing out. The approach to the green can be a tricky one depending on how far you are back. However, this green is quite a generous size, so if anything you're going to want to play to the back of the green, as there is a bit more space around the back there. There are 2 lumps sitting at the front of the green, and if anything you're going to want to try and avoid these. The green itself does slope down to the left hand side of this green. Again, depending where the pin is, you're likely going to find a bit of movement around this green, and it can get a bit slippy down towards that left hand side. Hole 7 and a long par 5 here. The tees that we were playing off today were quite forward. You could easily add another 50 to 75 yards further back, so this really does exaggerate this par 5. However, for most golfers, the aim again is going to be getting as close to the water as you can within 2 shots. If you can get past this water that comes at about 320 yards, if you can get past that in 2, great, this is going to give you a really good opportunity to get into the green for 3. I probably wouldn't go for the green in 2 for the longer hitters, just because you are going to be playing off a downhill slope, and that's just going to bring that water into play a little bit more than it would do normally. From the water, you've still got a good 200 yards, but this does play uphill, so you could easily add another 10-15 yards to your shot to make it to the green. The green again is quite a generous size with quite a bit of space all the way around. However, it will be a tough up and down if you do miss the green. The green does have one bunker on the right hand side, a fairly straightforward one to get out of if you do find yourself in it, and the green does slope a little down towards the front of this green. Not too much movement around most of this green, however it will get a little bit slippy down towards that front portion of the green. Hole 8 and a short par 5 relatively compared to the last one. I do recommend playing up towards the bunkers on this one, just because it does get really narrow the further you go down this fairway, and it also does play a little bit uphill, which does make it just that little bit more difficult. The fairway bunkers come at about 200 to 220 yards. This will also leave you a good shot over towards the water that is protecting the front of the green. The ideal shot here would leave you the other side of the road, and you're going to want to factor in about 100 yards, because this is going to be the shot that you'll have into the green if you do get beyond the road. Anything short of the road for that second shot will be playing from a downhill lie, and again will just make it all the more difficult to get into that green. This green isn't particularly big. It does have one bunker down the left hand side, however it does slope down towards the water, and you will find that anything short of spinners will likely get into that water. You will find plenty of movement on this green, so being mindful of that slope is going to be really important to saving par here. Hole 9 and a good length par 3 here. There is a bunker to the left hand side of this green, however it isn't actually too bad a place to miss. I would recommend playing the yardage to the back of the green, out of bounds all the way down the left hand side, and you do cross a bit of a small dip in the fairway. The green is quite a generous size. There is plenty of space the entire way around this green, so again a miss on this green probably won't give you too much trouble. The green is pretty flat for most of the way around, but there is a false front to this green, and again anything missed short will likely just roll down the hill. Hole 10 and another long straight par 4 here. Off the tee you will be advantaged by getting as far down the fairway as you possibly can. The fairway does narrow down at about 230 yards, and it will make quite a tight gap to get through. There's plenty of space out to the right, so if you are going to miss, that's going to be your place to go. Out of bounds or down the left, and you are going to want to try and avoid that left hand side as much as possible. The approach to the green does play slightly downhill, but it is a really tough approach. This green is really narrow. The green is a split tier green and has fall off areas all around the sides of the green. The back tier, if the pin is here, I would not recommend going for this pin at all. I would try and avoid it as much as possible. Just aim for the middle of the green, give yourself the best chance at 2 putting from here. If it is at the front, you can get away with playing to the front of the green, as this will likely only leave you with a sort of 10-12 foot putt, depending where the pin is. Hole 11 and a short par 3 here. Off the tee it does play slightly uphill, so I would recommend clubbing up maybe half a club at this point, or just playing the yardage to the back of the green. The green has a false front, so anything that is short will likely spin off the green. There is also a bunker that is down the left hand side. You will want to try and avoid this at all costs, as this will be a tough up and down. Also, as I mentioned, the green does slope down towards the front, so you will notice quite a lot of movement across most of the putts that you'll find on this hole. Hole 12, and arguably the signature hole here at Wergs, a very tricky par 4 indeed. If you have a high draw in your locker, then you will feel more than comfortable off the tee here. If you don't, then what I would do is aim slightly over the trees and allowing that fade to then come back into the middle of the fairway. The fairway does dog leg to the left, without a bounds or down the left hand side, and there's also water running the entire way down that right. This is a really intimidating tee shot. The ideal tee shot needs to be about 200 yards, trying to keep it around the sort of bridge that you'll see in the distance, and this should only leave you with about 100-120 yards into the green. The green is a very well protected green. It's a really tiny green. There's water at the front and water down the right hand side. There's also a bunker short left. Anything missed of this green is going to be a really tough shot to get up and down with. So you are going to have to be completely on your yardage control to get a good chance of getting par here. Once you get to the green though, this green will slope back down towards the water. So if you can, play the yardage to the middle or to the back of the green, and this should give you the best chance of looking at par. Hole 13, and this just plays the opposite of hole 12. This is a slight dogleg to the right, and the tees that we were playing off actually, this was over to the left hand side. There is another set of tees that is just the other side of the green that you play, and then you will see that dogleg to the right. However, this was playing completely straight. Off the tee though, you're going to want to leave yourself about 120 to 140 yards. So no matter where the tee is, playing the club that is going to give you that distance into the green is going to give you the best opportunity at getting down for par, and will also help you find the widest part of the fairway to then go and attack the green. The green plays at least half a club higher than what it will do due to the elevation change. There is 2 bunkers in this green, one short left and one short right. You will want to avoid the right hand one at all costs. The fact that it has steps getting into it pretty much says everything that you need to know. The green plays pretty flat. The front portion does have a slight slope down towards the front, but again you're probably not going to see much movement across this green. Hole 14, and another lengthy par 4 here, and again the benefit is getting as far down the fairway as possible. There's 2 fairway bunkers at roughly 200 yards, and the fairway does narrow down after this point. The ideal shot though would be about 230-240 yards. This should get you clear of the bunkers, and it will also allow you to play off a flat piece of land. If you go a little bit too far, so about 250-260 yards, there's a slight dip in the fairway, and then you'll be left with a downhill lie. And the approach to this green shot is above you, and there's also water protecting the front of this green, so it's just going to make that shot harder. The green itself does slope down towards the front of the green, so what I'd recommend is playing to the middle or to the back of the green, knowing that you will have a downhill putt anything past the pin. Hole 15, and another good length par 5 here. This was another hole that again the tees are playing at least 50 yards further forward than what they would be normally. However, off the tee, the aim is just to get as close to the water as possible. This will leave you with no more than about 230 yards into this green. It does play slightly uphill, so you're going to want to try and play a club around 240 yards if you are going to go for the green. Even though I did try it on the day, I wouldn't recommend this normally. This is quite a narrow fairway, so what I would recommend is just thinking about that third shot to play the distance that you want to play into this green. This green is quite a generous size, and you do have a bit of a downhill slope towards the front of the green. Play to the middle of the green. There is quite a bit of space long and wide, so if you do miss, then it isn't probably going to be the end of the world. There is a very small bunker onto the right hand side of this green, however shouldn't be too many problems to get out of it. Hole 16, and a really difficult hole here. You are almost forced into laying up before the water. There is a pond that's at about 220 yards off the tee. The tee does play quite a bit downhill, so you're going to probably factor in that by taking 1 club less. If you do want to take on the water, this drive is going to need to be about 250 yards at least, and this is a really narrow bit of fairway to try and hit, hence why I'm not recommending taking on the water. The only problem with being before the water is it does leave you a long shot into this green, more than about 180 to 200 yards. We'll also play off a downhill lie, just adding to the difficulty of this shot. There is a bunker on the right hand side of this green, probably not a bad place to miss as it is quite flat relative to the green. The green is also quite flat, so from all angles around this green you won't find much movement on any of the putts. Hole 17, and for me the most difficult hole on the course. This is a split fairway, and as you'll see in the distance, this is separated by a big bunch of trees. The shortest option is playing to the left hand fairway. However, this fairway is no more than about 25 yards wide, so a very accurate tee shot will be needed to find the fairway. Going down the right hand side will easily add 30-40 yards, but again a much wider fairway in comparison. Should you find either fairway, this is actually quite a nice green to have a go at. Pretty big green, plenty of space all the way around it, and I would recommend just aiming for the middle of the green just to avoid any sort of trouble. There is a bunker down the right hand side, but again not a bunker that won't be too difficult to get out of. The green, another green that is all the way around pretty flat, so you won't find too much movement across any putts. And finally onto hole 18, yet again another long par 4 here. Depending where the tees are, you will have to try and avoid the big tree that is on the left hand side. So yet another tee that is going to need a bit of a draw to get you into the best position. You might have seen earlier on in the video that there was some water when I played that second shot, and this is the dip that's in the fairway on 18. For most golfers, you're going to probably be short of this dip. For the longer hitters, you will likely get into the dip or past the dip depending on how far you can hit it. This should give you another lengthy shot into the green. The ideal shot might actually be to leave it short on this hole. This should then avoid the bunker that's on the right hand side. Again, once you get to the green, fairly flat all the way around, so do not expect too much movement from around this green.